Alright guys, well I found the first issue. This is the very first time I got it to dump, and I'm already running into issues, so I could already imagine I'm going to run into a bunch of issues. But you know what? Part of the game. I don't know what I'm doing. Did a little bit of research, but clearly not enough. I like doing that. I rather find out the hard way, if that makes sense, and figure out what's going to work and what's not going to work. I feel like when you actually learn from a mistake, in my opinion at least, it sticks with me versus when someone just tells me, hey, don't do it like that, do it like this instead. For whatever reason, it goes in one ear and comes out the other. So I know this will for sure stick, and you know what? I'm just gonna show you guys what's going on. That way you guys don't make the same mistake, or you guys can try to avoid this if you guys are gonna build a rack. So there's a combination of things going on right here that I think is affecting this deal. However, there's one that's really important that I think is what the main problem is. What I got going on right now is I have my rack all done, but I don't have any of my cylinders or anything mounted on there. I just got the bed up so I can get under there and weld a couple brackets that I need to weld, and you know, do a bunch of work that I need to do. But the bed itself is too heavy to the point where I can't lift it by myself. So I figured, you know what, I'm going to use the hydraulic cylinders and the pumps to lift it up for me and help me get it up so I can get under there and work. So that's exactly what I did. I got my cylinders on there, and I tried hitting the switch, and I tried getting the bed to dump, and it couldn't dump. So I ended up hooking up 3 batteries, which is 36 volts, and it still won't dump, which is super like, whoa, what the heck? Like, this thing should have been able to dump with 24 volts, no problem. At least I think it should not have to take 36 volts to lift it and just to dump it. And even then, it's not 36 volts. It's not lifting. So I probably need another battery, which would be 48 volts, to maybe even get it to lift, and maybe that won't even lift it. So yeah, that's too many batteries in my opinion. That's too much power for something simple like a dump. Now, it's not that I'm trying to go fast or anything, it just will not dump. It won't even pick up the bed at all. Started looking into it a little bit, and this is what I found. For starters, I'm just going to start off with the basics. So I have these batteries right here. Now I know, yes, they're on concrete, yes, they're going to get messed up, blah blah blah, whatever. These are old batteries, so it doesn't really matter, but it could be a combination of these. These are old batteries. I don't know when they were, if they were ever refurbished or not. I just got these for free, so I figured, you know what, I'll use them because these will probably be stronger than my standard battery. So what I did is I got 2 Group 31s. There you go, used, unknown condition. They hold charge, but I don't know anything besides that. And then this, I just hooked this up so I can get a little bit more power. This is the battery that's off of the truck, which is what starts the truck. So it could be a combination of, bad and old batteries, or it could just be a combination that since I have a smaller battery, it's not technically a full, 36 volts. Even though it is 36 volts, it's not full power because this thing is 500 cranking amps versus these are 2 950s. Okay, whatever. Problem number 1, or suspicion number 1. And then obviously this janky wiring. I have some jumper cables, some super thin jumper cables. They're not super thin, but they're like 6 gauge, which is, should be a lot thicker. But I figured just to get the bed up, they should still be fine regardless. So yeah, they might get a little hot, but that's fine. So that could be part of the issue. My driveway is in a pretty gnarly incline going down that way. So I know you can't really tell on camera, but I had these little chocks on the rear wheel so I can get under there because the truck is low. I'm going to try to straighten out the camera as best as I can. So this is about level right here. So you can see how far down the truck is sloping. Instead of being flat, it's going downhill because of my driveway. So I think that's also a big part as to why I can't get the bed up, because obviously if the bed is like this, it has to lift it to be straight, and then it has to lift it past that. So that could be it. Obviously that's, one of the key factors in this. This is what I think the real problem is, and I don't know why I didn't think about this until now, but you know what, it is what it is. We're gonna try to fix this now. So this right here is like super important. I don't know why I didn't catch this when I was building this whole rack. Cylinder placement, yeah, that's a big one, and I clearly didn't think about that. But what we got going on right here is, you can see how I tugged it up super high over here, because I wanted, when the bed was down, I wanted my cylinders to be pretty much laying down and be tucked. That way they wouldn't be hanging down super low, and I wouldn't hit them going into driveways and stuff, since my truck is a static drop and it's pretty low. So that's why I had them laying down, so they would tuck up, because if I had them pointed down a little bit more, they would obviously be hanging down over here and I could clip them on a curb, or just getting out of my driveway, since my driveway is really steep. I think the problem is when the bed comes down, they're pretty much in this direction. They're laying down. So when I hit the switch, it's trying to push that way and it's trying to lift it up at the same time. So I think it's just laid down too much to where that 36 volts of power is pretty much trying to go straight and rip these tabs off, which obviously they're pretty thick and they're welded on pretty good. So these aren't going to go anywhere. They're not going to break. It just won't lift the bed because it's pretty much trying to push it that way versus trying to push it up. I think instead of going that way, I have to drop the back of the cylinder a little bit so that it picks it up easier. Alrighty, well, after a lot of testing and pretty much my whole afternoon gone, it's not the best, but I think for right now and where I'm at, it's good enough just because I kind of want to get this over with. Now, I'm not trying to rush it, but I'm also not going to be spending too much time on this because I do have other projects that I want to build. These are Hoppo's brackets right here that I got. You can pick these up from them. Forgot how much I paid for them, but they're pretty cheap considering they're already cut. Then they're just tacked to my existing brackets, which what that did is it dropped down the cylinder. Now, I didn't want to weld my tab straight to the cylinder because I think that is extremely horrible for the cylinder, but I don't really have much space, given that when it locks up all the way, it hits on my rack down here. So that design that I had done by extending these, it worked, but there's also a big issue. For one, right when it maxes out, it hits the bar that holds the pumps. And then second, it hangs down super low back here. Hopefully this is the last and the final time I have to do this and I could just start redoing or start adding everything on and go play. And what I'm gonna do is get some angle iron. The angle iron is gonna sit in here like that, and then the other piece of the angle iron is going to be standing up like that, and I'm going to mount it up here. Now the reason I'm going to mount it up here is because now my cylinder is going to have to go through the dump instead of being mounted on the bottom like that and pushing up. It's going to sit up here and it's going to be pulling the brackets up in order to get it to dump, which is, you know, it's not the best method, but at this point I'm kind of out of options, and it's the only way that I can get the cylinder to sit really high up. Now these are already 6-inch cylinders, so they're already the smallest cylinders that Hoppo's carries. The cylinder's gonna have to sit inside through the second and third stage in order to not be so close to the ground. And I know a lot of people are gonna comment, dude, just raise the truck. Yes, I do have air shocks on it right now. I did just order bags. The bags actually should be here tomorrow, so I'm gonna have bags tomorrow, but still, I want to be able to drive this truck aired out if I have to. And with the way that they were hanging down, if they're all the way in here, I can't even get out of my driveway, so that's why I'm tucking them up inside so they're above this pump rack. And I'm using angle iron because this is what I have laying around. This is some scrap. This is 3/8 thick and this is 3x3, so it's a little big, but I'm gonna have to trim it down and get it to fit. This is kind of the design I got working right here. These are my notch pieces that are gonna sit inside, and this is gonna be the top bar, which is gonna have the hole drilled for the cylinder. All right, now obviously I need to still clean this up quite a bit. It is a very weird cut, but I think it'll work perfect for what I want it to. So over here, we'll make it flush right there, nice and tight. We can still weld up there. And the reason it looks like I did a shortcut over here and it's not all the way is because when this second stage lifts up this way, this bar right here is going to interfere with the top of that, since it gets closer to the actual X where the space is a lot tighter. So that's why that's like that. But now I'm going to tack this in place. Obviously I'm going to clean it up first, but this is going to go pretty much here, and then right next to it on top of this piece right here, sorry it's hard to film with one hand, but on top of this piece we're going to get a flat plate and weld that to there parallel to this guy, and then we're going to drill a hole through this parallel bar, and the cylinder is going to go right there, and that's the top mount. I already got these nice and beveled. I got this part beveled. Now we just go and weld these in there. But for now, I'm just going to tack them in to make sure everything else is good. So now that I know that this is all mocked up and it all seems to work, at least I think it's gonna work, now I have to make all the brackets, cut everything, weld it in place, throw everything on, throw the bed on, and then test it out. And hopefully it works and I don't have to cut all this off. All right, well, now that I know that the bed works and the rack works and all of what I did works, now we're gonna add some little gussets, but this one I had to kind of cut it down because it's gonna hit on this bracket right here, because this bracket comes really close to this one when it comes down. So that's why I had to notch it. So it kind of defeats the purpose of holding it sturdy, but I figured it's better than nothing. And then for the other three, we have these, which are all scrap, and they're all just gonna get welded in place like that to keep it from moving side to side like this. Well, you can see the finished product right here. Got the little gusset plates in there. Got this all welded up in there. So now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna do this off camera because I don't have the metal on me and I just wanna get this video out. But I'm gonna get a flat plate and cut it to the inside of this and weld that in there and grind that all smooth so you can't really see through it. I'm gonna do that on the top and the bottom. I'm gonna do that for two reasons. One, for the looks, so it looks nice and pretty. And two, I do think it would make it a lot stronger if there was something keeping it from folding, because of the way I mounted these. If they do put pressure going that way, I do think eventually it could try to squish the tube that way. So if I hammer something in there on the bottom and then tack it in, and on the top just do something kind of flush mounted, I think it would look good and it would definitely help. But yeah, you can see right there I have the bed. This is pretty much as high as it's gonna go. Now it's not super high. I do have this piece of steel in here. This is just to hold it up so I can get under there and weld and be a little safer, because I just don't trust hydraulics. They're good, and I was jumping on this yesterday to make sure it wasn't gonna go down, and it was good. But you always want to be safe rather than be sorry and get squished by a 1,000-pound rack. But yeah, so you guys can see the way they're mounted. They're tucked up nice and high. They are higher than my rack bar in the back, so I'm not going to be scraping on those, which is pretty much what my main concern was. And yeah, now that the bed goes up, now we're good. Now it looks like it's bending, but it's just the second and the third stage going forward because of the weight, but it's not bending. Well, technically the second stage is bending. Second stage is still flexing quite a bit, so I'm gonna have to reinforce all of that. But like I said, I'm just going in baby steps. First step is done. At least the truck can dump right now, so I can get the bed on there and get it to dump. But the way I designed this setup, you guys can see right there, it's only in there by pressure. So the bed technically could go up. Nothing is welded. The cylinders are not welded to it. I have these sleeves that are welded to these tabs, but those cylinders are literally just resting in there with gravity, so the rack is holding them in place. So yeah, hopefully you guys watch this video before you guys even attempt to build your rack. I know I didn't think about this when I was building it, but I mean, hey, I didn't know what I was doing. I still don't know what I'm doing. However, I do know a little bit more than when I started this whole process. So yeah, now looking back at it, having my cylinders pushing that way was never going to lift the rack up. It was just fighting it. And then the second way I did it, it was fine, but it ended up hitting the rack in the bottom. It just didn't work out the way I wanted to, and they hung down super low. But If my truck wasn't low, they would have been fine. However, this setup is by far my favorite setup because I think it looks the cleanest. I'm gonna cut this video because I know it's probably super long and a bunch of talking. But I wanted to post this video to hopefully spread some awareness. That way you guys don't make the same mistakes. Once again, I think I messed up on the 4th stage. So I'm going to probably end up redoing that. And if I do end up redoing it, I will post a video showing you guys what I did. Pretty much the same mistake as I did in the bottom. I already tested the side to side. Those work. But this one, I think I did it too close. So if anything, what I could do is drill holes in the bottom of my bed and run cylinders standing straight up, which is not my go-to by any means. That's the last resort. But at this point, I'd rather have my cylinders going through my bed than not have a working 4-stage. So yeah, hopefully you guys found this video useful, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Later, guys.